CitizenU.org presents The 12.
We're the two teachers.
And we will help you deliberate as you cram for your exam, the AP Government exam, in 12 easy lessons.
Today's finding, writing FRQs, concept application.
Ooh, Andy, that scary word essay. Ha! There'll be 4 essays, 4 FRQs on our government exam, and each one is prescribed. Today we'll be talking about the concept application essay.
Concept application essay, the FRQ, will always be question 1 of the 4 essays that you'll be asked
always
to write.
one?
Always number 1.
This is kind of new.
It will always be worth a maximum of 3 points.
Wait, the rubric will always be 3 points?
Always be 3 points. And yet, even though it's only 3 points, FRQ1, the concept application, will always be 12.5% of your AP government exam score.
Wait a minute. That longer argumentative essay at the end worth 6 is worth exactly the same as the concept application essay worth only 3. Sounds to me like we really have to nail these 3 nails and score it.
Well, absolutely. If it's only worth 3 points, if you can get 2 or 3 points on this rubric, you're putting yourself in a very good position for an honor score in AP US Government.
So, Andy, let's look at what a concept application question looks like. There will be a short text to read and 3 questions that follow. Sounds pretty simple to me.
It's simple, except once you put that reading in there, remember that's a dynamic that students have to adjust to. The idea that they have to read the excerpt and now apply that text excerpt to a series of 3 questions.
So, Andy, my hunch is in the A portion, and I'm marking A, and we can debate that later, but in the A portion, they'll simply ask you to draw something out of the text, out of the reading. You'll be asked to respond to something inside the text.
Kind of, Dan. I mean, remember, the actual rubric says, and I'm reading from the rubric, describe a political institution, behavior, or process in connection with a scenario. So the scenario is the text. What a student's going to have to do in letter A is to identify a political institution. Maybe it's a part of the Constitution. Maybe it's a political behavior, something that they have been taught from the curriculum framework in AP US Government that relates to the text. The answer itself is probably not going to be word for word in that text, Dan.
But Andy, I would, by habit, when I respond to A, have a clause in there somewhere that says, according to the scenario. I would repeat the word scenario or concept in my response before I answer. I would also restate the prompt so that the reader knows that I've read the prompt and I've also read the scenario. So I'm repeating the language and then having that little prepositional phrase, according to the scenario.
Well, I agree with you, absolutely. That's the number 1 step in clear writing for FRQs, is to repeat the vocabulary of the prompt. You cannot go wrong with that. As simple as letter A might be, and in some cases it might be a simple point to get, please write your answer in a complete sentence where you're reusing the vocabulary of the prompt of A. And Dan, I think you give a great tip for letters B and C as well. We know that B and C will always ask students to connect their answer back to the context of the scenario. So in those B and C answers, they should bring in the context. They should quote the scenario.
Yes.
They should reference according to the scenario and drop a quote in, because you will not be able to get a point in B or C. As good as your answer might be, you won't be able to get the rubric points for B or C unless you directly connect your answer to the context of the scenario.
Well, Andy, the two teachers have said it for a long time, and it sounds to me like it's even more important for this style. Think less, ink more. Don't be seduced by this short little concept question. A, B, and C seems simple. I don't have to write as much. Write more. And you write more by using the text from the concept question and bury that into your response. Let the reader know you've read it by using the language from the text.
Use the language from the text. Use the language from the prompt. It'll direct you into correct answers. Letter B might ask you to connect your answer from letter A into your response from B. Don't ignore that. That's a crucial part that you're going to need to do in order to get the point. It is very likely that points B and C are going to ask you to explain how or
difference
or explain why. Be complete. To give an explanation of how or why, you really need a causal statement. You need to say because, or
because.
therefore, or due to. That's an explanation.
Yes.
So make sure you're repeating the vocabulary of the prompt, and make sure your response is including a causal statement if you're asked to explain how or explain why.
Define the terms. If they ask you about federalism, don't just apply federalism to the concept you've just read about. Take the minute to, in a sentence, describe what federalism is. Describe federalism, define federalism. Therefore, according to the concept, according to the text I've read, Andy, be explicit. Think more, think less, ink more.
You need to think less.
Andy, today we've talked about the concept application essay, the FRQ. 3-point rubric, what? But still worth 12.5 points. Andy, that's our bell. We're the two teachers. No fancy words.
No fancy suits.
Plain talk about issues you need to know.
Just in time.